Hello, and a very happy new year to you. We are kicking off 2024 in style, with not one, not two, but 3 new episodes. So, not only is there this episode in your podcast inbox, but there should be 2 others as well. Now, before you hear the sound of the music and the episode gets going, I wanted to let you know that this year, the year 2024, I'm going to be going on a little UK tour around some schools and visiting some assemblies. In the assemblies, I will be doing some live podcasts on some of the most special players who have ever lived. If you want me to come to your school to do a live podcast, please ask an adult to speak to your school about getting in contact. The school can contact me on footballforkidspodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the most special players the Spanish top division has seen. A player who has also had a huge impact on both the German Bundesliga and the German international team. And a player who is known for his ridiculous accuracy. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Toni Kroos. Before we get going, a massive happy birthday goes out to Joe Brady, who plays for Methley Blacks under-8s, and he loves listening to the podcast in the car. His birthday is on the 5th of January, and he is going to be 8 years old. He would love for me to do episodes on Garnacho and George Best. So, a huge happy birthday to you, Joe Brady. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you've had a lovely Christmas and everything else which goes with it. And I'm sure you're excited to get back playing football. So, a massive shout out to all of your team, Methley Blacks, under-8s, and of course to your wonderful coaches as well. Now, the first of the shout outs and messages says, "Hi, please can you give a shout out to Archie and Olive from Epsom? They absolutely love your podcast and they listen to them as soon as they come out and on every single car journey." Well, sorry about that, adults. You must be sick of my voice. Archie's favourite episode so far was the Pele one. And Olive loved the episode where Pickles the dog found the stolen World Cup. Well, Archie and Olive, a massive shout out to you. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all the other episodes which we've got coming out in 2024. It's going to be a big year for Football for Kids, so make sure that you're tuned in and you hit the follow button wherever you listen to the podcast so you never miss an episode. The next one says, "Hi Darren, my name is Breen. I'm 6 and my sister Cara is 3. We live in Dublin in Ireland and love Newcastle and Ireland. We'd love to hear a podcast on Roy or Robbie Keane or Alan Shearer. We love the podcast and we listen to it every night. A big shout out to Lakelands FC." Well, Breen and Cara, a huge shout out to you. You're probably a little bit older now because it was all the way back in May last year that you sent this message. So thank you for your patience in getting a shout out and thank you very much for being a continued listener of the Football for Kids podcast. Now the last shout out and message before we get into the episode on Toni Kroos says, "Hi Darren, our names are Henry and Teddy and we are Manchester United fans and we live in Leeds. Can you do an episode on Anthony? And could you give our football team a shout? Catalan soccer." Well, Henry and Teddy, a massive shout out to you two. A huge shout out to Catalan soccer and to your wonderful coaches as well. Thank you for being listeners, and I really hope that you enjoy this episode and all of the other ones which will be released in January and further on. Right then, it's time to get into the episode about the magnificent Toni Kroos. Oh, and before we go any further, sometimes you'll hear Toni referred to as Toni Kroos, but apparently the German way to say his name is Kroos. Now, German listeners, please let me know if I've got that wrong or right or wrong. Toni Kroos has reached the top level of football, And some of the best sports writers in the world have said that there isn't anything visible about why he has. He's not bigger or stronger than your average player. He's not quicker or faster than your average player. But what he is a player that can read the game better than your average player. And he has been described as the conductor of the Real Madrid orchestra. If you're not sure what I mean when I say conductor, when a group of musicians get together to perform, there is normally someone standing at the front reading the music and letting each musician know when to come in and play. They make it happen so the music sounds perfect. So Toni is said to be the conductor of the Real Madrid orchestra and has won a humongous cabinet of awards with the club. But to find out how it all happened, we need to go all the way back to the start. Toni Kroos was born on the 4th of January in 1990 in Germany. He has a brother called Felix, who also turned out to be a professional footballer and played as a professional in the German football leagues and got to the standard where he made many appearances for the German under-21 side. It's pretty good going to get two children in the same family that both go on to play for their country. Toni was said to be relatively quiet in school, someone who didn't do amazingly academically, but didn't do bad either. He was a quiet lad who didn't say much and was liked by the teachers and his classmates. Toni knew from a young age that he was very focused on his football, and that is what he wanted to do. Where Toni is from in Germany is a fairly remote and beautiful part of the country, which is close to the sea. The people from this part of the country have a reputation in Germany for being quiet and reserved. Toni has been said to have been quiet and calm his whole life, something which has helped him in big pressurised situations on the football pitch. Anyway, it all started for Toni at around the age of 5 years old, his mother said. He was talented with a football from that age, and it was clear to see straight away. As Toni got older, he spent more and more time training and naturally got better because of how much he practiced. From the word go, Toni's dad put a huge amount of effort and focus into Toni's training and development. He focused on him every step of the way. Eventually, Toni's dad ended up becoming the football coach for where he was playing, and it was said that he was a really good coach who had a special talent for teaching and training people how to be a better footballer. There was one person who stuck out in his dad Roland's team, and that was, of course, Toni. At the age of around 6 years old, he would get things pretty much the first time he tried them. He could dribble with unbelievable ball control at a fast pace. He could do stepovers. He could switch angles and go in and out of players. And from the age of 6 or 7 years old, he was a quicker thinker than any other kids his age. And that made a huge difference. At around 11 or 12 years old, Toni joined a team called Hansa Rostock, which had an amazing reputation for their youth system and fantastic facilities. Toni used to attend with his brother, and they were both so dedicated that they would get up super early, travel to the training ground, do a training session, go home, quickly eat breakfast, get ready for school, go to school, come home, do their homework, go to bed, and then they would do it all over again. Their life was completely organised around their football. Both Toni and his dad have looked back at those times and questioned whether it was entirely the right thing to do, with how intense it was and how much effort and time they put into it. But Toni's dad knew that his sons were extremely talented, and Toni was showing signs that he could go all the way. So it is without doubt that the dedication, sacrifice and hard work which they both put in the early days that made them go as far as they did. At around 16 years old, the phone of Toni's parents rang. It was Bayern Munich. They wanted to speak about Toni playing for them. It was all a bit surreal for his parents. Toni was 16 years old, and it meant that he would have to move a 9-hour drive away and stay away from his family home. Toni knew how big of an opportunity it was for him, and although it was tough to move to the other side of the country, he wanted to be a professional footballer and make it all the way. Toni packed his bags and off he headed to Bayern Munich. Toni's mum was upset and worried about him. It took her a while to get used to him not being there. She would lay the table for 4 people every night and then realise she only needed 3 plates. But she knew how much football meant to him, and the whole family supported him every step of the way. Toni eventually made it onto the pitch as a senior player, And when he did, he was delivering set pieces on target almost every time. He was creating opportunities like they were going out of fashion. And the way that he moved the ball about at the age of 17 years old was like nobody had ever seen before. He was truly exceptional, and the Bayern Munich coaches and managers thought if this kid doesn't go all the way, well, then they don't know anything about football. Toni was playing a lot for Bayern Munich, and things were going really well for him. And then, a new coach took over the squad, and he was for some reason barely getting any game time. He was desperate to play, and had been doing wonderful things on the football pitch, but just wasn't being played by the new coach. Toni's dad fought long and hard to get him to another team called Leverkusen, another top German team, so he could play with them. Eventually, this happened, and Munich loaned him to Leverkusen, where he got the game time and continued to show what an incredible talent he was. After around 10 seasons playing in Germany, it was time for a change. Toni had just won the 2014 World Cup, where the Germans beat Brazil 7-1 in the semi-finals, and then went on to beat Argentina in the finals. It was said that Toni had an agreement with Manchester United, with the then manager David Moyes, but David Moyes was released from the role as Manchester United manager, and the new manager, Louis van Gaal, decided that he didn't want to take Toni. That turned out to be a bit of a mistake, as it wasn't long after that Carlo Ancelotti, the Real Madrid manager, made a call to sign him to the club. Toni played with Sergio Ramos, Luka Modric, Cristiano Ronaldo, Gareth Bale and Karim Benzema, to name a few. In his first 3 seasons with the club, they won the Champions League 3 times in a row. He won the La Liga 3 times, the Copa del Rey, the Supercopa de España 3 times, and much more. And he's still playing on a regular basis, and is very likely to keep adding to his trophy cabinet. Over the years across Germany and Spain, Toni has won 5 Champions League trophies, 6 FIFA Club World Cups, 5 European Super Cups, 3 National Leagues, 3 Bundesliga titles, 3 German Football Cups, 2 German Super Cups, 1 FIFA World Cup, and a host of individual awards for his incredible performances. I hope that you've enjoyed listening and learning about the conductor of the Real Madrid orchestra, the man with the most accurate pass in the game, the truly brilliant Toni Kroos, or Kroos. So remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly, or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.